Hello, hello. Where are the researchers at? Come on. There we are. Okay, good.
All right.
Just wondering if we had any here.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. We traveled from California today, or earlier this week, and we're just excited to talk with everyone about customer centricity. So let's kick things off. By a show of hands, how many, let's see some folks who enjoy gardening or taking care of plants. Got a lot of green thumbs in the room. So keep your hands up if you've had success taking a little baby seedling to a mature, healthy plant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so the likelihood is if you were successful doing that, you had to introduce new things, make changes about what you're doing, as well as make changes in the environment for that baby plant so that it could grow into this mature, healthy plant. So maybe you had to give it a really nice mix of organic soil, introduce a healthy watering routine, give it a nice balance of light. So you had to make these changes to what you're doing and give it this environment so that it could grow into a nice, mature, healthy plant. So you're fostering it, you're nurturing it, and that's the same type of fostering and nurturing that is needed in order to grow customer centricity and increase the flow of insights throughout an organization. That kind of encouragement and nurturing is needed to really grow that throughout an organization.
Naturally, organizations are different. Teams are different, and so are environments. So how do you know how to achieve customer centricity when needs vary so much? How do you remove those environmental blockers? So today, Morgan and I are going to talk about enterprise because that's the environment we are in. And they typically are more complex. So if you look back at this image, we're kind of like the Christmas tree maybe, like the branches are long and dense and you throw some ornaments on it, it makes it more complex. So it has the tendency to develop broad and deep silos. And what silos do is disrupt the flow of information, right? So then teams kind of start working in silos, there's less communication, which leads to fragmented views of our customers and their needs. So we believe that increasing the flow of insights breaks silos and fosters customer centricity. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and when we talk about silos, we're not just talking about the silos within product, dev, and design. We're talking about silos that really cross the lines. So, really stretching out throughout the organization. And to increase that flow of insights, you really have to disrupt those silos. And so that's the focus. And so what we'd like to share with you today is a guide on how to disrupt those silos, something that's been successful for us. And so here we have this guide. The guide really has 4 main actions and objectives. So establishing value, that's really about your brand. Forming alliances, transforming culture, and delivering on outcomes. And they're represented here, all 4 of them are represented here, but they're separated by lines and walls that represent these silos. And so in order to start breaking those walls down, there are actions that we recommend you would take in order to do that. So to move from establishing value into forming alliances, you have to systematically share the insights that you're discovering with your customers and with your users. And then to move from forming alliances to acting on them, that starts opening the door and breaking those silos a bit so that you can start transforming your culture and working with those cross-functional teams. Then when you transform that culture, you're working with your cross-functional teams, And then you leverage that alliance to deliver outcomes. And so what you're really creating is this flow of insights, and it's a cycle, and each stage really builds on one and another, and it's a process that you can go through, and as you keep going through it, you keep creating more value and more outcomes and case studies.
So let's dive into establishing value. In order to extend your organizational reach and earn a seat at the table, you need to bring something valuable to the table. Because if your value isn't recognized, then, and teams don't see your work as complementary to their goals, they're going to continue working in silos. And so it is crucial to establish that value. And for some teams, it's more difficult than others, right? Research, the struggle is real. So we have to work extra hard. But let's take a step back. What is value? We looked up some definitions, and this is what we found. But in this context, we're not focused on monetary worth of something, but more of making sure that there is some fair exchange of something. And that something in our context is customer insights, which will help foster that customer centricity throughout the organization. So you're probably asking, okay, how do I establish value now? So to do that, you need to deliver on 3 components on a consistent basis. So we'll talk about each. First is raising awareness, and we think it should be broad and deep. And when we talk about depth, we mean these one-on-one meetings and maybe small group meetings with your core team. And then with broad is kind of pushing outputs to organization-wide Slack channels or doing some events to really share those insights. There are 2 unique ways that we share insights broadly and raise awareness at DocuSign. One of them is our newsletter. So we curate quarterly basis a newsletter that has all the insights that the team has collected, and we distribute it across DocuSign to roughly over 6,000 people. So everybody gets to view that. And then we have an annual conference, which is internal, called Customer Insights Week, where we hand select the most strategic projects that the team has worked on. And that's a great example of collaborating with cross-functional teams. And we share that out to, again, across the organization. And we try to keep it fun. So you can see here, the example we have here was Fly with PX to gain a new perspective. So everyone dressed up in travel attire just to keep it more fun and engaging, so it's not another presentation. So people had a ton of fun. And all of these efforts, again, are meant to establish the value and really solidify our team's brand to encourage collaboration between the teams.
But you can't just share the insights. The insights have to be actionable. And so as Mariné discussed, we're sharing at broad level and a granular level. And so you need to match those insights so that they're actionable at both of those levels. So the broad needs to be at a higher altitude of detail, but when you're working with your project teams, the project teams are going to want all the granular details. So one example of this is we use jobs to be done informed personas. And this is an abstracted view of our jobs to be done informed personas. And so we share these at both a broad and a deep level. At the broad level, we have an internal site that is available to anyone in the organization. And at that level, we have to keep things at a certain altitude so that it matches the expectations and the needs at that broad level. But as was mentioning, the deep level with project teams, we have to present the information a little differently at a more granular level so that it's actionable for the immediate teams. And then the third component is you have to start looking for the partners and the opportunities, because you're going to need to start looking for these alliances. So you always keep your eyes out for these opportunities, and there are different ways to do that. You have to be a bit of a sleuth sometimes. You meet people in meetings. You can take a look at organization charts and really just try and understand, how do those organizations outside of your immediate organization really work and function? And then that will open up these opportunities. So that takes us to forming alliances. We've systematically shared. It opens the door into forming the alliances. And then forming these alliances, you'll be able to start acting on them. So you've been sharing insights. You're ready to go on a roadshow with your insights and start forming these alliances. So you'll need a deck, but you're prepared with this deck because you've already stacked up all these insights. You have your content. You've established your brand. So you're ready to go. You have the what, where, and how of your team. But the focus of this conversation really isn't just sharing what your team does. You really want to focus on prioritizing your potential partners' needs and understanding what that group does. This is strategic because then you can think about what are the best ways to find a mutually beneficial partnership with this group. But there are many groups to potentially partner with, and that could be overwhelming. There's marketing, sales, operations, pricing teams. So, how do you know where to begin? So this is represented this way because on the outside of this model here, these groups are collecting insights, but they're collecting insights as a secondary action. They have a primary function. Marketing's focus on marketing, sales on sales, operations on efficiencies. But what's unique about a team that is insights gathering is that's a primary function for them. And so they have a superpower. And that superpower starts connecting these cross-functional organizational teams. And so one example I wanted to share was an alliance that we formed between sales group and our operations group. And sales teams out there talking to customers, they have a different lens than traditional insights gathering. So it's all about triangulation and adding data to your insights. And so we were able to partner with sales and operations, and we became that connector that really unlocked the insights. And so more to come on the outcomes of this a little later in the talk, but this is one example of an alliance that we've been successful forming.
So, if it ever changes, okay. So this is kind of what leads to transforming culture, but just forming the alliance isn't enough. You have to act on it, right? To make sure the transformation occurs and you're starting to break those silos. So to move from alliance to transformation, you have to make commitments to act together. What we use at DocuSign are OKRs to do that. How many of you have heard of OKRs? Okay. Wow, okay, more than I expected. So it is a big topic. There are entire books on it, but just at a high level for those who may not be familiar, is that they are just objectives that you define, and then key results or milestones that support those objectives to achieve it. The reason OKRs are successful is that they can be mutually beneficial. So we draft the objective with the team that we're going to partner with and agree on, what are we going to do together and how each team is going to benefit from this alliance. And once they're formalized and we align on it, then we start socializing with leadership, which kind of helps document it and keep teams accountable to deliver on those commitments. So it may look something like this, where you're partnering with, again, the sales team, so you're going to share insights. Again, each team has a different touch point with customers, so bringing all those insights together gives us a more holistic view of our customers and their needs. And then it's the key results, which we're saying, hey, by this date, we're going to figure out what's the strategy for how we curate ideas that will help inform product roadmap. Or we need a centralized hub to store all these insights. So there are different actions that eventually add up to supporting that overarching objective.
Okay, so at this point, those silos have started to break down. The walls have come down here. The silos are, you're now working with the cross-functional team. And so now you're sort of moving into delivering outcomes, and we wanted to share a few outcomes from the work. So Earlier, brought in the example of jobs to be done informed personas and talked about partnership and alliance with sales and operations. And so what we're representing here is that through that partnership, we're able to continue our push of having a shared language in our group. So the shared language is our jobs to be done and our informed personas, and we were able to take the ideas that were coming from that alliance and map them to our jobs. So that helps us stay focused on driving the user needs and making sure that we're addressing those user needs as we build.
And just a quick comment on this too, myself and a colleague of mine, Megan Matthews, we did a whole talk on the jobs to be done informed personas earlier this year at UXDX again. So if you're interested more on that, there's a recording of that. Next kind of shifts the focus in terms of benefit to our team. One of the key results from this alliance was that it was going to help us grow our research panel. I think those who are in research or conduct research know how challenging it could be to recruit customers. So the partnership kind of led to our salespeople promoting our research panel, and like every touch point they would have with customers is to say like, hey, make sure you join it. This is your opportunity to share your voice and feedback and really co-design with us. So it really helped elevate the profile of it and encourage signups so that we can have more feedback and continue fostering a customer centricity. Another alliance was with our product marketing team, which led to research teams engaging with customers globally and interacting with them locally to do these interactive workshops again, at our annual customer conference called Momentum.
Okay, so that's the guide, and that's what we walked through today. That it's really a cycle, and you can move from establishing value, forming alliances, start breaking those walls, and transforming culture and delivering outcomes. And what we would suggest is when you go back to your organizations next week, to get started, and we would recommend focusing on just two things to get started: establishing value. Do an assessment of all the insights that you have. You probably already have them, and you could get started with that. And the second thing is just start keeping an eye out for those opportunities. Those opportunities to partner are really everywhere, and that will get you moving through the cycle and on your way to delivering outcomes.
And this should also be a lot of it applicable to different sized companies as well. So again, it's not, I know the focus was on enterprise, but you might still have silos in smaller companies. There might be fewer silos, but you could still use parts of this. And
then as you go and put it into practice, we just recommend a few things to keep in mind. Practice creates a habit. Maybe when you first start out, it doesn't feel natural, but the more that you do it, it just becomes a behavior, and it just becomes a natural thing to meet someone, find out what organization they're in, and consider is this an opportunity to have a mutually beneficial partnership and form an alliance. So that's one. Progress over perfection. Don't get stuck in it has to be perfect or go through each step. Just get started, and you'll be well on your way.
And don't be afraid to experiment. Again, as we said in the beginning of the talk, environments are different, organizations are different, so you have to figure out what type of fostering is needed for your organization to make this a success. And that's all we got. We'll take questions now.
First of all, what kind of strategies or tools are effective in ensuring that the research insights are continuously integrated into the decision process without just, disappearing and not getting used at all? Are there any particular tools or strategies that you'd use?
I think in terms of how they get leverage, the researchers work closely with the team. So we have product design engineering. Sometimes we do follow-ups to see like, hey, has this been implemented? And especially when they come back asking for more research. It's
Yeah.
always like, what have we done with the first round of research? Let's start there. But yeah, it's following up and building those partnerships to make sure those are implemented.
Okay, keep following up. Okay, we'll move on to the questions from the audience. What software services did you use to connect the clients via your research panel? And are you happy with it?
We use Qualtrics for our
Qualtrics,
research panel.
okay.
So yeah, we will send out a link and ask them to join. We actually try to build our panel based on the personas, the jobs to be done, informed personas that we talked about.
Yep.
So we're really revamping it to make sure that we have very targeted conversations with customers.
Cool. And can you talk a bit more about the connection you established between sales and ops? And can you mention a tangible outcome?
Yeah. So the connection between sales and ops. Yeah. So sort of what we're sharing is that you have to find those opportunities, and so that was an opportunity that presented itself. Sales team, they have insights that they collect from the field, which is a different type of perspective than when you're traditionally doing research, lab research, or talking with customers one-on-one. The info that is coming from the field comes from a different lens, and so we try to incorporate that through that operations partnership. And the outcome is really the mapping of those ideas to the jobs to be done in form personas.
Just to add to it too, I think it's helping the sales team frame the ideas they're pitching to the product team in a shared language, right? So within our product and technology, a lot more people have adapted the jobs to be done personas, for personas. So it's framing it like, okay, this feature or product that we're recommending that we hear from the field solves for this specific job or this persona. So we help them package that up so it's more meaningful ideas that they're bubbling up to the product and technology organization.
Very good. What is the typical length of a research cycle for a cross-team collaboration?
I think it depends. I know nobody likes that answer, but it depends if it's a tactical usability testing or if it's more generative foundational research, but it can range between 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, and then follow-ups, depending if it's, again, more easy tactical recommendations to fix usability, or it's something more strategic that needs to be incorporated in a long-term roadmap.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and what I would add about the cross-functional organization aspect of that, I think that's where the power of the OKR that you form with the cross-functional team comes in, because you establish in the outcome, you're going to bring in a date that you want to deliver on. So that also helps keep you accountable to the objective and achieving that objective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one. How does your insights repository look like? Tools, channels, access, etc.
Do you want to take that one, Mariné?
Yeah, so Insights repository, internal site that we as researchers are really a liaison, and when partners reach out and they're looking for insights, we really help curate that for our partners and dig into the repository and help package up what it is that those groups need.
We are starting the process of implementing Enjoy HQ, so we don't have the whole ROI on it yet, so I can't speak to it too much, but that's something we're starting to look. And another one is we leverage our Slack channel. So we have a company-wide Slack channel that we share insights and say, like, here's a research drop, we just completed this was the background, these are the insights, and then they have contact with the researcher who conducted, so if they want a deeper dive, they can connect with them.
Okay. And what incentives, if any, do you offer for participant recruitment to the research panel?
The incentives vary. I think, again, depending on the time commitment, if it's a 30-minute session, 45-minute session, 90-minute session in some cases. But most of the time we offer them unless they're in a regulated industry that we're not allowed to. But yes.
Okay. On the topic of teams, where insights is a secondary action, shouldn't anyone in a truly customer-centric org see insights, collecting analysis, using, etc., as their primary task?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, not to pick on sales, but sales goal is to meet their sales quota, right? So if they have to weigh the benefit of, well, is this going to help me hit my goals today? You know, maybe not sure in the long term, if they're collaborating with us and we're collecting the insights to help deliver products that bring value to a customer, it'll be easier to sell. But today or this year, their primary goal is to meet that sales quota. So they might not prioritize putting the time aside to collect those insights, right? So it takes a little encouragement and partnership to achieve that.
Yeah, and I would also add that if you're an insights gathering team, then you bring a certain domain expertise to really help package up those kinds of insights. So yes, the drive to gather insights from the customer, from the user, that should be embedded, but as an insights gathering team, you can really leverage that expertise to help, and that's a part of that partnership, is to be able to bring those two domain expertise together.
Okay. How would you adjust the model for a UX team of one?
That's a good question. Let us know when you find out. No.
We've run out of time. We've run out of time.
I think, yeah, I mean, I would...
Go ahead.
So I would say the model would remain the same. You would just be patient with the cycle. So it might take a little longer to build up the insights and to establish the value. And then it's also going to be time management, because if you're a team of one, you're going to have many other responsibilities that you're going to need to work on. And when you do engage in an alliance and you form an objective and make some commitments, you want to make sure that you can deliver on those commitments. So you have to be careful with what you're committing to so that you maintain a good relationship with this partner. So I think it's still something that you can do as a team of one, but you just have to, yes, make some of those adjustments.
Yeah, and quickly to add to it too, I think if you're a team of one, your focus should be more on establishing the value and really showing the worth of your work, so then you can grow your team and then be able to do this more advanced stuff. So.
Okay. How would you elaborate on how jobs to be done are communicated to and used by designers?
We can, but that's a whole other talk. As I mentioned, I think just watching that recording, it's actually available on UXDX website. It's a really deep topic to talk about, but at the highest level, we did a lot of socialization and targeted education model to get the designers to be familiar with it, adopt it, and then become champions, so then they're able to champion it with their stakeholders and product and engineering. So it's kind of a stage approach. Okay.
How successful was recruitment for the panel? How many participants did you manage to recruit onto the panel in the first few months?
Yeah, I mean, recruiting, building a panel is a long-term process. It's a grind, and it's something that you have to always have working multiple channels. So what we shared, that's one channel. There are in-product opportunities to promote your panel. We also shared the Momentum event, so that's another channel. So it takes time, and you have to be strategic and find those opportunities, because it really takes all of those channels to grow.
It's a multifaceted process. We're also getting ready to launch it with our customer support team, which is another example of a different alliance that we're working on right now. But yeah,
Okay.
it takes time.
Okay. Do you have any tips for overcoming the ambient Slack noise when you share insights? Anything creative? No pressure.
I can take it, then you can add to it. I think it's making sure that it's scannable and it has the insights. There's some different strategies and formats we're experimenting with. But yeah, there are a lot of people that keep an eye on that, and we also promote it like in our newsletter, in our Customer Insights Week. So it's talked about. It's a pretty well-known channel for our organization. So people who are interested, they keep an eye on those new insights.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add, we try and keep a good flow and a good pace of the sharing as well. So, sometimes with Slack channels, if they go quiet, then they, you sort of have both sides. It could be either quiet channel or a really noisy channel. So I think you have to find that balance.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. What arguments can I use to pitch the idea of having a research newsletter on the company?
Morgan, you want to talk about that? You kind of kicked it off before I was there.
So I'm not sure if the question is asking like for permission to launch a newsletter, but
yeah,
I guess I would say just launch it. I'm not sure if you have if there are other barriers that would be getting in the way, then maybe there are conversations, and maybe that's an opportunity to start forming an alliance or building a partnership if there is something that you perceive as a blocker to that. But I mean, sharing user insights, customer insights, and growing a customer-centric culture, I think you might need to be bold and start small and just start pushing that out into your organization.
Yeah, you can get forgiveness later.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And how do you initiate forming alliances?
I think, well, with the sales one, there was actually buy-in at the leadership level. So there were conversations that kind of started saying like, hey, we need to partner more closely. So that one was initiated by leadership. But I think individually, you can kind of start look for those opportunities. And the other benefit of establishing the value and like building your team's brand is like opportunities start coming to you and people want to partner with you because they know the type of work you do. So it finds you.
Great. I really enjoyed
For better
that.
or worse.
Thanks, guys. I really enjoyed that grilling. So put your hands together for Mariné and Morgan.
Thank you.